Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, and today we have a rumor coming regarding Nick Bosa. This is a breaking rumor just coming out about an hour or so ago. You know, Nick Bosa, the 49ers, this has been an interesting couple of days going back to Friday between the two. Let's just start with where we are today. The 49ers going ahead and making their initial 53-man roster, getting down to that roster limit. Nick Bosa not on that roster. And the reason he's not is because right now he is in the middle of a contract situation with the 49ers, so he is not on that 53-man roster. They expect him to be on there at some point. Now, if you go back to Friday, there was talk from Ian Rappaport that the 49ers and Nick Bosa, that those discussions were not going well, that there really hasn't been much to report. And that continues to be the situation. You know, really what it is what Rappaport said was Nick Bosa knows his value. He knows what he's worth. And Nick Bosa is not going to make a move until he gets paid what he's worth and what he believes he's worth. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, today, where this breaking rumor comes from, and this is coming from Reddit. This is coming from a source on Reddit who says, inside source, 49ers may trade Nick Bosa to an unnamed AFC team. Now, here's what the Reddit post says, and then I'll give you my thoughts. I'm the same Redditor who broke the Christian McCaffrey to 49ers trade news before it happened. This is a recent development, and this is happening right now. There has been a breakdown in negotiations between the 49ers and Nick Bosa. Bosa is asking for a lot more than the 49ers budgeted for, and essentially has all the leverage in the current situation. The 49ers are threatening to trade him to an unnamed AFC team if Bosa doesn't sign their current offer within the next week. That unnamed team is prepared to pay Bosa what he wants. Reminder, this is a similar situation to what happened with DeForest Buckner. They were far apart in numbers, and the 49ers cut ties. San Francisco reportedly has been working on the parameters of a blockbuster trade for several weeks. There's the report, and here's my thoughts on it. This sounds like a perfect example of 49ers QAnon. Now you might be asking, Jack, what's 49ers QAnon? Well, 49ers QAnon is really something that we've seen quite a bit since like 2020, once we kind of all got stuck in COVID and we kind of got used to seeing all these crazy things in the political arena. We're seeing that bleed into a lot of stuff around the 49ers, and a lot of 49ers coverage really thrives on QAnon type of stuff. Now let's break down what he says here in this post. The main thing that should tip you off is that he says, reminder that this is a similar situation that happened with DeForest Buckner. They were far apart in numbers and the 49ers cut ties. Well, here's what we know. We know that DeForest Buckner was never offered a contract close to what he was given by the Indianapolis Colts. The 49ers, though, gave a contract very similar to that to a different player. Instead of DeForest Buckner, they gave it to Eric Armstead. So it wasn't about the fact that DeForest Buckner, they weren't willing to go that far. It was that they just didn't want to give the money to Buckner because they wanted to give it to Eric Armstead instead. Beyond that, when you start to look at it, the 49ers, there's just enough things in here to make you believe it. And that's really what QAnon thrives on, is giving you just enough to make it really seem like you look at it and you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I can understand where that's coming from. I don't think that there's any truth to this. I do believe, like what Rappaport said, that Nick Bosa believes that he has a number and he has a value, and until he gets that, he's not going to sign. What I feel when it comes to Nick Bosa is the 49ers need Nick Bosa way more than Nick Bosa needs the 49ers. Nick Bosa, his family, they're smart with their money. They're well off in terms of having financial smarts, putting money where it needs to go so that they're safe for a long period of time. And I think right now the 49ers are in a spot where they're trying to use the same negotiation tactics on Nick Bosa that they've used on all of their guys. You know, if you look through the 49ers history of these big dollar deals, they usually get them done way earlier than where we are now, but they are usually also very contentious. We know that with George Kittle, that was a contentious negotiation. We know that with Deebo Samuel last year, that was a contentious negotiation. We know that's been the case with almost everybody. Fred Warner's was also contentious to an extent, but that didn't get out into the mainstream. Really, even George Kittle's really didn't get out into the mainstream until after it was done. Deebo Samuel's the one in which it blew up, and that's just because the player kept putting it out there, and his representation didn't tamp it down. So when it comes to this report, do I think that Nick Bosa is going to get traded to an unnamed AFC team? I don't. I do think that Nick Bosa is going to become a member of the 49ers. One of the things that John Lynch says quite often is that deadlines spur action. And I think for the 49ers, their deadline is Sunday. And the reason I think their deadline is Sunday is because Sunday is 1 week before the season opener against Pittsburgh. And I think the 49ers feel like as long as they get this deal done by Sunday, get it inked, get him on the practice field for those early practices to get ready to go out to Pittsburgh, that he could come in, play against the Steelers, maybe not play the entire game, maybe not play as many snaps as he normally would, but that Nick Bosa could come on and he could play a good 40-50% of the snaps in a more of a pass rusher type of role. So I think for the 49ers, their goal is to get this done by Sunday. The preseason, most of training camp, that's really not something when it comes to Nick Bosa that I feel like the 49ers were really worried about, like he really needed to be in to get in shape. We know that Nick Bosa takes phenomenal care of his body. He is in shape. He comes in. Last year when he joined, when he was here throughout training camp. He was ready to go on the first day of camp. But he had paced himself. He got through it. And we know the season that he had. He's coming off of being the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bosa deserves to be paid the most money of any defensive player in the NFL because last year he was the best. He, over the 4 seasons that he's been in the NFL, the numbers that he has put up, put him as the best defensive lineman, best defensive player in the NFL. He impacts the game at a very high rate, and the 49ers need to get this done. Now, the 49ers are a team that might be able to make the playoffs without Nick Bosa. However, if they want to make the Super Bowl run, which is what their goal is, they need Nick Bosa to be in camp. They need Nick Bosa to be there week 1 against Pittsburgh. They need Nick Bosa this season to make that happen. They're not a Super Bowl winning team. They're not a Super Bowl team even if Nick Bosa's not here. I think the 49ers understand that. I think John Lynch understands that. Kyle Shanahan understands that. And I don't think the 49ers are quite as dumb as some people want to make you believe that they are. They'll get it done. They need to get to the number. And it's time for somebody to just get ready to write that check and get this thing done. Take it for what it's worth. There you go. Nick Bosa, trade to an unnamed AFC team. That rumor, again, like I just said a second ago, take it for what it's worth. Hopefully you like what you see here. If you can do me a favor, hit that like button. Once you're done with the like button, make sure you also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And after you subscribe, also turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the updates that happen right here on Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your night. We'll be talking with you soon.